Good morning and welcome back to Home Sweet Grown Garden. I am planting my peppers today. Okay, here's my game plan and my thought process for getting these in the soil. I have a general idea of what I want in my garden when I garden plant, and I've been thinking about it as I plant the early spring plants, kind of what makes most sense in my garden spaces for peppers. Now, peppers are my favorite thing to grow. It is what I dedicate most of my garden space to. And while I have a ton of variety of fruits and other vegetables and really cool things growing, peppers is what I'm here for. I am all in on peppers. So I have 3 garden spaces and tons of individual containers for tons of different types of peppers. And also to note, my largest quantity of peppers, a type that I'm growing, is jalapeno this year. I always have wanted to have 2 or 3 plants of a ton of different types of peppers, and that's still very much happening this year. However, I have a dozen jalapeno peppers that I am planting this year. I want to can them. I want to make a ton of jalapeno seasoning powders. I have so many plans for jalapenos, and I last year was buying a ton of jalapenos from farmers markets and grocery stores to practice different recipes with, and I want all of them from my garden this year. Where my jalapenos are all going to be bunched together so I can keep a real good eye on when they need to be harvested. I'm just trying to piece it all together. It's one big puzzle I'm working out. So sometimes, depending on the number that I start of plants, I can really plan out, okay, I have a row of 3 here and 3 types of this pepper, great. I have 3 here, great, I'll put 3 here. However, I started so many pepper plants this year, and then I kept adding more seeds and more pots, and I so overdid it. So my planning kind of goes out the window because I almost don't know exactly what I have. Just the cup, so each type of pepper, they're all labeled with a little marker right here, all of them just on the soil, not putting them in, and then I get to just kind of move them around, see what makes sense. And with that placement of all these cups, my main priority is to put all the hot peppers together and all the sweet peppers together. And then also I have to keep in mind the height of the plant. So many of these plants I've grown in the past, and I know which ones for me got really, really large and which ones got really, really small. And then I also am throwing in another challenge of grouping sort of by color. So if I have a bunch of orange bell peppers, I want them kind of grouped together so I can keep an eye on them. And that way I know I'm waiting on those to change color, or I can harvest, the bell peppers green if I really want to, but I know this grouping all turns orange. This grouping will all turn brown, like a chocolate bell pepper. These are all purple. These are all giant yellow monster bell peppers, that kind of a thing. So I'd like them to be grouped ideally. And then that way it also makes harvesting easier, because if I'm just coming out for a pepper for dinner, I can quickly find a bell pepper or something kind of the size that I need, because different varieties of sweet peppers have different sizes and different shapes. And then if I need a hot pepper, I know which part of the garden to go for a hot pepper. So right now, I have peppers just placed everywhere. I planted a couple in, so this is the end goal. These are 3 Bueno Mulata peppers, and they're already putting on these gorgeous purple peppers, and they're mulched. So that's the goal for all the rest of the peppers today. So this middle whole bed, where you can see I've started to line up a couple pots, and then again I have these already planted and mulched. I wanted to get a feel for the spacing, how I liked it compared to last year. So this row and a couple down there are actually already planted. This is a purple Murawski, I think is how you say it. Murawski purple. 2 sweet banana peppers, and then 7 paprika pepper plants. And those all started producing, and those are huge. I wanted to get them in the ground. And then the rest of these are monster yellow bell peppers mainly, and this is kind of going to be all the sweet peppers. So these are bell peppers, mostly orange corals, and a couple chocolate bells. I think that'll work out nicely with the numbers. These in pots are a couple different ones. These are purple perfume. These are this sweet moruga, which look hot but are sweet. These are pequeño yellows. These are a little bit, I guess, spicy, but they're more like a seasoning pepper. Not so hot, not so sweet. Over here is the next bed of pepper space that I'm dedicating. These are gonna be grouped by 2. I realize I have a ton of them with 2s, so it kind of works out really nicely going down here. So right now it's Pippin Golden, Big Jim, a Javarsky, 2 Cubanelles, 2 Jimmy Nardellos, 2 Carmen F1s, and then I have a space for 2 right here. I have a ton of Shishitos, so I might end up kind of squishing 4 in there. I have so many Shishitos and I simply don't need so many. They're prolific. I still have a couple more spaces for peppers that I just don't have a real nice home for, so those are some blanks. And this is what I mean by I'm trying to group and see how many I have in inventory. Hello, little buggy. These are a ton of purple sweet bell pepper type varieties. So I have lilac bell and purple sparkles in here, and I have a ton. Obviously they're not all going in that one container, but this is how I'm inventorying and taking a kind of feel for how many I have. That's another lilac, and then those are 2 chocolate bells. So all sweet but different colors, and these tend to be very small compared to these larger ones that are over here. So grouping by size, grouping by color, it's helping me identify the locations of my garden where these will get sun and not get totally shaded out by those much larger plants that are over there. And then lastly, I have this bed back here, and this is where I want my super hots to be, where I can build a little fence border around here that doesn't block sun, so we don't accidentally mix up any super hot peppers. I have a Carolina Reaper and a couple ghost peppers that are going in here. I need these to be totally separated so my toddler doesn't accidentally get in here and ingest one of those, obviously for safety issues. So this is going to be the bed that I'm protecting better and cornering off. However, I think there's enough space for, those are all cayennes of different colors, orange, purple, and red. I just have so many of different varieties. I have to figure out and prioritize where I can fit all those jalapenos, all those cayennes, and then still have enough space to protect those super hots. It's kind of like a puzzle. And then also the last kind of experiment and location where I can place a couple plants that are a little bit on the smaller side, especially when I'm thinking about those violet sparkle plants. I have green stalks that can potentially hold those in some of these empty pockets. So because they're more compact plants, at least in my experience, they've been more compact. This is a great alternative to fit quite a few extra plants and save some of my actual bed space for larger pepper plants that need more space to spread out. Okay, I'm gonna continue to puzzle this together, and once I think I get that done, I'm just gonna plant them all in and then I'll check in with you after. Good morning. It is about a day after filming the last portion of getting all of my peppers organized and placed where I think I want them. So just as a checkup, they are all planted in, they are mulched, they look so good. And since then I'm seeing new blooms, I'm seeing the peppers that were existing on some of the plants double in size. I'm really seeing some really nice progress, and I'm very happy with how I ended up organizing the peppers. I think sometimes I will plant something and somewhat regret where I put it or second guess myself once it's in the soil, but I think the pepper arrangement this year is really, really good. And where the ones that are the most tall are in the back, ones that will be slightly shaded but in a good way are in good places. Like, I'm very happy with the placement that I ended up with. So let's do a quick tour of the peppers, and then hopefully I'll do kind of more of a garden update in a day or two or this weekend. So if you're looking at this angle of the garden, this whole bed and all these planters are peppers. This bed, this half, there's garlic down here, peppers fill this portion, and then this back bed right here, all peppers. So we'll start back here. What is planted in here are hot peppers. So there's some super hots in the center, and the purpose of placing these in the center is to keep them hopefully somewhat less in reach. So I want to put a little bit of a boundary or a kind of, you know, little fence type border around the edge of this bed so my toddler doesn't get in here. But there's Carolina Reapers in the center and Ghost Peppers in the back, and then these are 2 Sugar Rush Peach. Last year these got huge, so they have really thick posts to really help support them, but we'll see that placement. And then we have 3 Buena Mulata pepper plants, and look, they all have so many peppers already. I love seeing that. And then down here are my 2 types of jalapeno plants. There are Craig's Grande jalapeno plants on this side, and then the Tam jalapeno, which is slightly smaller, but potentially more prolific. So I'm expecting, and this will kind of be a test this year, to get a lot more small ones out of these plants and fewer but much larger ones out of those plants. So right down here are a couple lilac bell peppers right here. And I actually placed a couple of them also in my green stock. So there's one there, a couple down here. I wanted to test how the violet sparkles, because last 2 times I've planted them, the plants are pretty small, pretty compact. So I thought it would be a really cool test to have something like that in a green stock. See how they do. There's a couple more over here. And then I also have a purple perfume. Again, this is completely new to me, so we'll see how big that gets. But I put it on the bottom in case it ends up being kind of large and takes up more space. I'll just read off a couple of the section or the names of tags that are in this section, and then the center becomes a little more uniform again. We have some chocolate bells, a Tabasco plant. These 2 are fish peppers, so this is like a variegated leaf, which is really pretty. And the peppers should be as well. This one right here is a cayenne. All the rest of my cayennes are over in a different section altogether. I had an extra one and I didn't want to sell or give that one away, so that's kind of just an extra one there. There's a lemon drop here. I'd like to get one more container so I can plant one more lemon drop. And then that is an ají charapita, a new pepper to me. There's actually 2 right there. The center of this bed, this was my hot pepper bed last year, and I had a ton of hot peppers and a lot of variety, and I kind of learned what I liked and didn't like last year. So this year, this is all sweet peppers. This is a purple Muraski. I have 2 of them, and they're already producing these black looking peppers. I really like those. These 2 rows are almost all yellow monster bell peppers, this row and this row. I have 2 sweet banana peppers already producing, which is so cool. And then down here, there's a couple orange Cali bells and orange coral bell pepper plants right here. And then these 6 right here are paprika pepper plants. So I'll use those for seasonings. And one thing I did a little different this year is I added a place where I can walk across this bed, and so I can get more into the center of the bed to harvest. I was finding myself needing to step into this bed a lot last year, so this year I made kind of a bigger space here, and I might even add a couple walking stones in the center, but I think this will work out a lot better and make entry a lot easier. Look, my first cosmos, 1 and 2. We're getting blooms. That's fun. That's so cool. Okay. Over in these containers, somewhat uniform, but also a couple extras in here. These are all coral orange bell peppers with a lilac bell at the end. So again, a row of sweet peppers. These two are pequeño peppers. 1, 2. This one is a 2 sweet moruga, which is a sweet pepper or mild pepper that looks really, really hot. Gets kind of wrinkly like a ghost pepper kind of would look. These are 2 purple perfume. Look how beautiful and dark these leaves are. Gorgeous. I love the way that these look. Hopefully I like the pepper too. And then this is another chocolate bell. So brown bell pepper. And then lastly, down here I have groups of 2. So they're the same pepper doubled. A lot of my peppers I start in 2s in case one pepper plant doesn't do well or I need a backup. But in this case, I have 2 of each and then 3 right here. These 3 right here are shishito peppers. So that should produce a ridiculous amount of shishitos. Shishito pepper plants just pop off. They're crazy. So 3 is honestly a lot. I planted them pretty close. Peppers really don't mind being somewhat crowded when the plants get taller. These are Carmen F1 peppers. These were one of my absolute favorite peppers that I've ever grown, and I get these from a farm. I'm really not finding the peppers seeds available for sale, or you know, I'd like to continue looking for those and source some seeds, but I got these from a local farm, and that's where I've gotten them in the past. They do fantastic. 2 Jimmy Nardellos, and one of those is already producing. They are kind of wild and curled red peppers. People really, really love them. Sometimes they get kind of more straight like this. I did not actually love this pepper very much. I'm giving it one more shot. And if I don't find that I like this pepper, I probably won't grow it again. But everyone raves about them, so I'm trying to get on that bandwagon. Cubanelle peppers are here. Ajvarsky is next. This one, if I remember correctly, because I think this is one of the ones that the labels got switched last year, but I remember the Ajvarsky to be very similar to the Carmen F1 in terms of size and flavor. Very large, very good for dinners. Just grabbing one of them will suffice for like a stir-fry dinner for my husband and I. So they were really consistent and productive. So similar vibes there. And the last 2 rows, this one's my Big Jim, which is new to me. But look at the size of this pepper just so far. I do not know what to expect in terms of uniform shape or size or anything on these. This is new. I'm very excited about it though. And the last is Pippin Golden, another one I hear all about over and over again, and I've never grown myself. So that's a quick rundown. I'd like to have some progress videos and a garden tour up on the channel soon, but that's kind of what we're looking like. I'm so glad to have all these peppers in the ground. It was a whole day worth of work, and they look so good. I'm very happy with the number of stakes, which I had to double. I had to place another order this year. Like, I have everything I need to have an absurdly productive pepper year. So yeah, that's what we're looking like this year. Thank you for joining me this week in the garden. Lots has changed. A lot of new plants in the ground. A lot of progress is about to start kicking off. I'm so excited to share with you, and I will post a garden tour here shortly. So I'm excited to show you all the little things that have been in the ground for a while and are progressing so well, and all these new things. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.